Anatomy and Physiology Tutorials. The Endocrine System. The endocrine system works to control and coordinate all other body systems. This control and coordination takes place slowly through the release of hormones. The nervous system also works to control the body's systems, but does so through the communication via nerve impulses which travel quickly throughout the body. Hormones are released from endocrine glands and are transported throughout the body via the bloodstream to target cells. Target cells are any cell in the body that has a specific receptor to which a hormone forms a complex. Which cell, A or B, would be a target cell of this hormone? Remember, hormones will not act on every cell in the body. For a response to take place in a cell, that cell must possess a specific receptor. It's like a lock and key fit. Use this analogy. Your house key will not unlock the front door to everyone's house. Only your house. Your house would be the target. So cell A has the specific receptor for this hormone. When the hormone receptor complex forms, a sequence of events will be initiated in that target cell, which will work to bring the body back to set point. Let's now take a look at some of the endocrine glands, the hormones that are released, and their functions. Here we will identify some of the major endocrine glands in the human body. We begin with the hypothalamus, which connects the nervous system to the endocrine. Next we have the pituitary, pineal, thyroid, the four parathyroids located on the posterior side of the thyroid, two adrenals atop the kidneys, the pancreas, which also functions as the exocrine gland as an accessory organ of the digestive system, the thymus, a pair of testes in males, and a pair of ovaries in females. The pituitary gland is really two glands. The anterior and posterior pituitaries act separately from one another under the control of the hypothalamus. We sometimes refer to the pituitary as the master gland because many of the hormones released stimulate other glands to release their hormones. The hypothalamus produces hormones that stimulate the pituitary gland, and also antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin, which are stored in the posterior pituitary. Release of antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin from the posterior pituitary is controlled by nerve impulses from the hypothalamus. Inhibiting and releasing hormones controls the hormonal release of the anterior pituitary. The posterior pituitary. Antidiuretic hormone causes kidneys to reabsorb water back into the body, which results in decreased urine output or volume, which helps regulate low blood pressure by maintaining blood volume. Oxytocin stimulates smooth muscle in the uterus to increase labor contractions. Also stimulates milk letdown in breastfeeding mothers. The anterior pituitary. Growth hormone stimulates cell division and body tissue repair. Adrenocorticotropic hormone affects the release of hormones from the adrenal cortex. Thyroid stimulating hormone affects the release of hormones from the thyroid gland. Gonadotropic hormones have their effects in the gonads, the testes, and the ovaries. Follicle stimulating hormone regulates gamete production in males and females. That would be egg and sperm cells. Luteinizing hormone in females stimulates ovulation and secretion of estrogen and progesterone, and in males stimulates the secretion of testosterone. Prolactin initiates milk production in breastfeeding females. Next, we move on to the thyroid and parathyroids. The thyroid is located around the trachea, inferior to the larynx. The four tinier parathyroid glands are found on the posterior side of the thyroid. Hormones released by the thyroid are triiodothyronine, or T3, thyroxine, T4. Both regulate metabolic activity, your metabolism. Someone with hyperthyroidism has a fast metabolism, a high energy level. They may be hot and sweaty and may be underweight. Someone with hypothyroidism has a slow metabolism, therefore having low energy levels. They may be cold and shivering and may be overweight. Calcitonin is released in response to levels of calcium in the blood being too high. Decreases blood calcium levels by stimulating osteoblasts in the bone, which inhibits the breakdown. The bone is storing and building with the calcium. The hormone released by the parathyroids is parathyroid hormone. Parathyroid hormone is released in response to levels of calcium in the blood being too low. It increases blood calcium levels by stimulating osteoclasts in the bone, which causes the breakdown. The bone is being demineralized. Calcitonin and parathyroid hormone are antagonistic hormones. When blood calcium levels are too high, the thyroid gland releases calcitonin to bring calcium levels back down to set point. When calcium levels are too low, the parathyroid releases parathyroid hormone to bring calcium levels back to set point. The pancreas. Remember, the pancreas is both an endocrine gland releasing hormones into the bloodstream and an exocrine gland with releasing digestive enzymes which travel via ducts to the small intestines. The pancreatic islets are little clumps of cells scattered like islands in a sea among the exocrine pancreatic cells. The alpha cells secrete glucagon and beta cells secrete insulin. Like calcitonin and parathyroid hormone, insulin and glucagon are also antagonistic hormones. When blood glucose levels are too high, the pancreatic beta cells release insulin to bring glucose levels back down to set point. When glucose levels are too low, the pancreatic alpha cells release glucagon to bring glucose levels back up to set point. The adrenal glands sit atop the kidneys. The adrenal gland is actually a two-in-one gland made up of the adrenal cortex and the adrenal medulla. Let's begin with the adrenal cortex and the hormones released. Cortisol keeps blood glucose levels normal between meals. Aldosterone increases blood sodium and water reabsorption in the kidneys, helping to maintain blood volume, thus regulating blood pressure. Taking a look at the control from the beginning, the hypothalamus receives a message via nerve impulses that something in the body is not normal. It responds by secreting specific releasing hormones to the anterior pituitary, which then secretes adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH. ACTH moves through the bloodstream and forms complexes with target cells, which have receptors in the adrenal cortex, stimulating the release of cortisol or aldosterone, depending on which bodily function needs adjusting. The adrenal medulla has a different action. The hormones released are norepinephrine, or noradrenaline, and epinephrine, adrenaline. Their actions mimic the sympathetic response, or what we might call the fight or flight. This will cause blood vessels to constrict and bronchi in the lungs to dilate. The thymus gland is at its largest in infants and begins to decrease in size as we age. The hormone released is thymosin. Thymosin stimulates an increase in white blood cell count to fight infectious agents, so it plays a large role in immunity. The pineal gland is a pine cone-shaped gland located on the posterior side of the brain. The most important hormone released is melatonin, which is thought to control biological rhythms, serving as an internal clock. Levels decrease during the day with increasing light causing wakefulness. Levels increase at night with decreasing light causing sleep. In the male are found testes. The testes are the site for the majority of testosterone production. Testosterone production increases in the male as he reaches puberty and functions in maintaining the male's secondary sex characteristics such as facial hair, deepening of the voice, and broadening of the shoulders. Taking a look at the control from the beginning, the hypothalamus receives a message via nerve impulses that something in the body needs adjusting. It responds by secreting specific releasing hormones to the anterior pituitary, which then secretes the gonadotropin luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone moves through the bloodstream and finds target cells in the testes, which stimulates the production of testosterone. The hypothalamus also sends a specific releasing hormone to the anterior pituitary to stimulate the release of another gonadotropin, follicle stimulating hormone, FSH. Follicle stimulating hormone reaches target cells in the testes and stimulates sperm cell production. In females are found ovaries. The ovaries are the site for estrogen and progesterone production. Production of these hormones increases as the female reaches puberty. Estrogen functions in maintaining the female's secondary sex characteristics and plays a role in the monthly menstrual cycle by stimulating the thickening of the inner lining of the uterus. Progesterone also plays a role in the menstrual cycle by stimulating the increase in vascular support to the inner lining, all in preparation for the developing embryo to implant. Taking a look at the control from the beginning, the hypothalamus receives a message via nerve impulses that something in the body needs adjusting. It responds by secreting specific releasing hormones to the anterior pituitary, which then secretes the gonadotropin follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH. Follicle stimulating hormone moves through the bloodstream and finds target cells in the ovaries, which stimulates the development of the follicular cells around the female gamete, the egg. It is these follicular cells which secrete the estrogen and progesterone hormones. About mid-cycle, the hypothalamus sends the specific releasing hormone to the anterior pituitary, and an increased amount of luteinizing hormone is released. Luteinizing hormone stimulates ovulation of the egg. This completes the tutorial on the endocrine system.